Welcome to Cooking at LMS with your hosts, Mr. Willman
and Mr. Childress. We're going to make simple, easy, healthy meals for you guys today.
And today we're working on something pretty great, one-pot spaghetti.
Let me tell you something. My mom makes the greatest spaghetti ever.
I don't know. Ann Willman might disagree with that.
Oh, really? I don't know. It's pretty good.
All right. We'll take you at your word.
Okay. Here's our healthy ingredients for today's meal.
We're going to start with 1 pound of ground turkey breast. You want to make sure that this is a higher number over on this side than this side. This is going to show you that as long as this is a lot higher, you don't want to get into 60-40, but we want to get into something like 85-15. It means the fat content is a lot lower, it's a lot leaner cut of meat that we're going to do. You're going to also need 1 green bell pepper. It's going to have to be chopped up, as well as half of a large onion. You're going to need half of one of these chopped up, about equal size. You're going to need 1 regular size package, that's a 13-ounce package, of whole wheat thin spaghetti. You're going to need 1 package of sliced baby mushrooms, and you're also going to need 1 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes. Now, when you look at this meal, when we talk about things, we want to talk about adding a lot of color to our meal. And we have a lot of color here with our greens, our whites, and our reds. And we also want to talk about how important it is that we have whole wheat pasta instead of enriched grain pasta, just because of the fiber that you're going to get and all the nutrients that you're going to gain. All right, the first thing that we're going to want to do before we get started is we always want to wash our vegetables. You go to a store, you don't know what's on them, any dirt that's still may be in from the ground that they came from, so we want to wash them. So, simple enough with the bell pepper, we're just going to wash it thoroughly in some warm water, rub your hands over it, after you have already washed your hands, hopefully, and which I did right before we did this. So that's nice and cleaned off. Then with our onion, what we're going to do is we're going to cut it in half, so we're going to use half of the onion. Cut it in half. I'm going to peel away the skin. This takes a little bit sometimes. Get that first top layer off of the onion.
While he's peeling, you always want to make sure that when you're washing your hands or vegetables like this, you use warm, hot water. Cut the end off of it, get that last layer off, that onion. You might tear up a little bit while you're doing it. It's okay, you're not less of a man if you're a boy, if you tear up a little bit while you cut an onion. Now we've got that cleared off, let's again run it under some warm water, clear everything up. Now, we want to make sure that we cut these into even slices. It's important in cooking that your vegetables are in nice, even slices. That way everything cooks nice and even all the way through. When I do this green pepper, I like to cut the center of this out first so I can pull this whole core out right here. I'm going to toss that down the garbage disposal. And you'll see there's a lot of seeds, so I'm just going to cut right on down through. Now, if this is your first time ever working with a knife, I recommend that you probably talk to your parents about it, get a little bit of help with them, practice a little bit before you go in and cut your finger off. That probably wouldn't be a good thing. I don't know if Mr. Gall would be too happy with us students walking in with their fingers missing because they didn't practice. Not everybody's a pro like me and Mr. Willman.
So, I'm going to cut out the middle part of this. Try to get as many seeds off as possible. Probably going to run this one more time through the water just to kind of clear all the seeds out of here. And we're going to get to cut these up nice and even. As we're cutting this, remember we want to make sure that we get nice even slices on our pepper. One more. And then when we dice it, we get it right in these nice cubes, that we get nice even strokes and cuts. That way our food cooks evenly with the rest of it. Now moving on to the onion. An onion is a very hard thing to dice with a knife. It's a lot easier to use a chopper, but right now we're going to try it with a knife and see how fancy we can get. What I want to do first is I want to cut this onion into slices. And I want these slices to be nice and even. Don't cut your finger while you're doing this. You gotta be very, very careful as you're cutting an onion into slices. It can be very dangerous if you don't watch what you're doing. It can be very easy for you to slice a finger off. So we've got our onion into nice slices. We're gonna stack it right back up just like it came off. And from here, I'm gonna slice it straight down into stacks. Again, be careful cutting. Sometimes it gets a little out of hand. And once we get to this point, we're just gonna start chopping. It might lose a little bit every now and again. Start chopping to get a nice even cut on all your onions. You don't want to have too long strands of it. Nice and even. So what we're going to do is we're just going to, again, nice warm water, we're going to rinse our mushrooms off. We've got them all here. Just do this, take my hand, drain the water out, pressing down, don't want to lose any of them. Just want to rinse them off, give them a good rinse. You can buy packages that say clean mushrooms. Those have already been cleaned, but again, you want to always make sure that you've done this, clean those out. We're going to add these into a nice little bowl right here. Into this bowl as well, we're going to add all of our peppers and all of our onions right into this bowl. That way it goes nice and easy into our pan.
Let's see that color, Mr. Woolman.
That's some nice green and white and our mushrooms in there. It's going to look real good once we get the tomatoes in there as
All right, the first thing you want to do, you want to make sure your cooking surface is clear of all things that might catch on fire. We want our fire medium. We bring it down a notch to about medium. Put the pan on there. This is no stick baking grease or baking spray. You want to spray this, coat the bottom of the pan, not too much, but make sure you get everywhere. Over here, we have our pound of turkey. See, our lean turkey. It's high in protein, low in fat. That's very good for any diet. You don't want a lot of fat in your diet. Okay, we're going to add this in. Yeah, we got a chopper up tool that we're going to use. Okay, we're just going to mash it around. Make sure it's crumbled into pieces so it all cooks evenly. Okay, after we get that done, we're going to add all our green vegetables, our mushrooms, our green peppers, and our onions. As you can see in this pot, the vegetables and lean meat are probably about 50-50 right now. So that's a very good sign in your meals. You want about 50-50 in your meals. Let's see a spatula. Okay, you want to mix it up real well. The flavors of the onions and the mushrooms are going to kind of seep out into the meat, and vice versa with the meat. So we're gonna let this cook for a little bit, let it saute for a little bit, and then we'll come back to it. All right, well, while you're cooking it, you want to make sure you keep on rotating the meat so it doesn't stick and burn on the bottom. You'll know when the meat is done when it starts turning this brownish color, just like that. We got a little red right there. When you're cooking the meat, what it does to the meat, it basically burns off the bacteria. That's why you want to cook it all the way through until it's brown. Sometimes you'll cut up a piece and it'll be a little red in the middle. That means you still got a little bit more time on that piece or on the entire pot.
Okay, what we're going to do right now is we're going to get rid of the grease from our meat. You know, anytime that you cook turkey, ground beef, anything, you're going to get some grease that cooks off with it. Obviously, we don't want to put grease into our body. It's not a good consistency. It's a lot of fat, so we want to get that out of our meat. Also, when we're draining grease, we do not just drain grease into the sink, because that's going to clog up your drains. And I know your mom's not going to be happy if you clog up the pipes in her house. I know Mrs. Woolman wouldn't be very happy right now if I clogged up our kitchen sink with some grease. So I make sure that I always pour my grease into a coffee can or a jar, something that's nice and easy and easily accessible. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold the meat back. I'm just going to drain nice and slow the leftover grease into my coffee can. And you can see there's grease from other times that we've cooked. Yep, you're on.
Alright, we're going to start our fire back up because when you leave it, you want to make sure you turn it up. Mr. Roman wouldn't be too happy with fires in his kitchen, I know that. We're going to add our tomatoes, our red. Okay, now we got a little green, got a little white, got a little red. Got Italian flag going. We're going to mash it down so we get all those juices on the tomatoes. And when you add the can of tomatoes, you don't want to strain it first. You want to make sure all the juices from the tomatoes get into the pot. So you're going to stir it up, mash it around just like this. A good technique is driving your spoon down and then twisting. Driving and twisting. And you want to do that everywhere.
Alright, so let's finish up our meal. Let's finish adding the rest of the ingredients. Some important things we want to add. We're going to add 1 whole box of our whole wheat thin spaghetti to our meal. This is going to come out real fast, so make sure you grab a hold of it on the way out. And we want to break this. So I'm going to make sure this is nice and even. I'm going to put it over the pot. Now I'm just going to break this right in half over the pot. I'm going to add my spaghetti into the pot. Then I'm going to add 1 cup or 8 ounces of water to my pot. Now, it calls for a teaspoon of oregano. I'm just going to, give a little shake, a little bam right here. Just a little something for some flavor. And we always want to add just a little bit of salt. We don't want to go overboard on the salt. Our heart doesn't like that. Just a little bit of salt throughout here. I'm going to give that a nice stir. And that same way you do, I'm going to stir, make sure everything is nice and stirred together. It's important that we get all of this stirred in so we can get that spaghetti down into the water. Break it up even a little bit more as we stir throughout, because we're not boiling the spaghetti, we're going to simmer it in here. So we're going to get everything nice and stirred in, nice and together as we're in here. And I want to turn up my heat all the way up to high, and I'm going to wait until that water boils. And once that water boils, we'll come back and we'll finish the last step. So now we've got our water boiling. You can come in here and you can see the water coming up, coming to a boil at the top. I'm going to give that one more stir right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover this. One stir. We're going to cover this. We're going to let that steam as it cooks as well on top. Maybe if I use the right lid, it would be better. Cover that. You can see the steam already starting to come up. We're going to turn our heat down just so it simmers. Okay, we only want this to simmer. I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes. Start. I may come back every now and again just to mix it up a little bit. And when we come back, we should have a delicious meal. All right, timer just went off. We're going to turn off the heat. Look in here, this beautiful, delicious 1 pot and our 2 pots that we used spaghetti. You can see some of the turkey meat, the vegetables. It's got a great color, great flavor. Doesn't look like your typical spaghetti, but it's going to be fantastic.
This is good, man.
It's real good.
Yeah, I got my whole grains from my whole wheat pasta, my potassium to rebuild my muscles, and the protein to help build them back up.
I got my whole mouth full of it.
Yeah, I'm about to pump you up with this meal right now.
This has been Cooking at LMS, Mr. Childers and Mr. Woman.
Good eats.